This is A Silent War Within, the podcast dedicated to confronting the unseen mental health battles carried by our first responder and healthcare heroes. This show is about real stories, real struggles, and real ways to survive the storm and come out stronger on the other side. For too long, stigma has kept you silent, but this is your space to bravely break that silence, share vital insights, and build a community where your well-being truly comes first, because your service deserves unwavering support.
All right, everybody, welcome back to A Silent War Within. As you can tell, I'm at a different location, so this is our new place to record. We're not going to disclose that, but this is our new place to record. This is not my home, but this is a great area. We got lots of comic books behind me that will likely be featured in some of the shows coming up as I get some more equipment and find stands and things like that. So we're really excited about that, but always happy to have you guys here with us. Today, we've got somebody that I have watched probably since he started, known as Firefighter Fenton, but actual name is Brent. Brent, how are you today?
I am doing well. I'm glad to be here.
Man, we're excited to have you on. You're a big name. It's like having a celebrity on. I love all the celebrity names.
You're going to make him blush.
It's always funny when people say that. I drive a 2001 crappy Dodge Dakota, so I don't know.
Hey, there's
Really
nothing wrong with that.
Influencer treatment.
Yeah. Right.
So we always, Michaela, I'm so sorry. And our beautiful host, Michaela's here with us. I know I left you out. I'm so sorry. How are you today, Michaela?
It's a wonderfully beautiful day in Maine today. It finally hit 60 degrees, so I'm so excited.
Wow. Maine.
It's 75 in Tennessee, so we're doing just fine.
75 in Arizona right now, which is unseasonably cool. It's usually
I was fixing to say that's winter for you guys.
It was 94. It was 94 yesterday, so we got a little.
Jeez.
It's supposed to rain today a little bit, so we'll see.
Very, very cool. Well, Firefighter Fenton, we're going to call you Brent the whole show because that's your name. Thank you for joining us. We always want to give the person a chance to know the person behind the persona, the real Brent, if you will. So tell us your story. What was the starting point for this whole EMS firefighter journey that you've been on? Just tell us your general story and how you got into this and then how you transitioned into this Firefighter Fenton character.
Yeah. Just kind of a disclaimer. I have a tendency to make short stories long, so we'll see how this goes. Now, I'm born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. I come from a public safety family, not the fire service. My entire family was law enforcement. My dad did 26 years with Phoenix PD. He's the youngest of 4 boys, and 2 of his older brothers were also law enforcement officers. So my journey in the fire service began with a pursuit in law enforcement. Yeah, I was gung-ho to be a cop. I actually, I loved going up to the forest. And so my goal was to get a degree in forestry and I wanted to be a forest ranger. I wanted to be a cop in the woods. But for years, I would just watch my dad go to work. I was obsessed with law enforcement. I was always watching Cops. When he was gone, when I was a kid, and when I was old enough to go on ride-alongs, I was on ride-alongs every weekend I could. I had a blast. I couldn't get enough of it. Loved it. By the end of my high school, like in my senior year, I was the beginning of my senior year. I was really starting to really put a plan together of how I was going to actually make this a reality. And then fortunately, my dad was promoted to sergeant. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks after he got promoted to sergeant, one of his officers was shot and killed. So that took a big toll on my dad. He felt responsible and felt a lot of responsibility for that. And I just remember him coming home one day, and I was talking about going on a ride along with him, and he just kind of went off on me, not mad at me, but just kind of dealing with his own things, and just said, "I don't want you to be a cop. I don't want to go to your funeral. I have friends in the fire service. You should go check that out." So I was like, I never really thought about that. I was like, okay. So I went on a ride along with some of his childhood buddies who were firefighters. And I always say I got the bait and switch because I went on this ride along and it was awesome. First of all, his friend let me go on a 24-hour ride along, which was unheard of. Got some random 17-year-old kid coming to the fire station for 24 hours. That's not related to anybody. And we went on this ride, and it was in downtown Phoenix, very busy truck. And it was all the exciting things, everything you hear about. We had car accidents, car fires, there was a shooting, there was a stabbing, there was, just anything and everything. And at 2:30 in the morning, it all culminated to, we got kicked out to a structure fire. So I got the experience of waking up in the middle of the night, getting that dump of adrenaline, running out the door to a structure fire, pulling up on scene, and it spreads to the neighbor's house. And now there's 2 houses burning. And I'm watching these guys pull lines, kick in doors, disappear into smoke and flames. And I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Now, fast forward now in my career, I realize those days do happen, but there's a lot more feces typically involved on a day-to-day shift.
Yes.
Yeah, there was not one lift assist. There was not one crazy, there was crazy people, but there was not one disgusting medical call. It was all the hero fun stuff. And so that's why I'm in. I'm still in, even though I do it in spite of all the other stuff. I still love it. But I was hooked immediately, started testing for the fire department. I kind of went all out. I was supported by my parents, which was nice. And I ended up getting hired young, got hired at 21. And I've been doing it ever since. Here I'm just this past March, I hit 22 years. I'm also a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for 20 years. Yeah. I just got into the fire service, fell in love with it. Met my wife, Stephanie, after I was in the fire service for, 4 or 5 years. We've been married 16 years. We have 4 kids. She's a nurse, the stereotypical firefighter nurse. She was not a nurse when I met her. She was not a nurse when I met her. She was in nursing school. She was on her way. But yeah, the whole Firefighter Fenton thing, how that all came about was completely by accident. From a young age, I always loved comedy. Got that love of it from the OG funny Fentons, my dad and my grandpa. They are the funniest ones, just aspiring to be like them. But I always loved to make people laugh growing up. And I would always hear, you should be a comedian. You should be a comedian. And got into the fire service, and I was always making people laugh, and guys would say, man, you missed your calling. You hear that so much, you start to question, did I miss my calling? I had a desire to do movies and things like that. Just never really knew how that would happen. I always thought you had to go through Hollywood and all that stuff. And then social media kind of popped off, YouTube, and I'll date myself, but this was 2009. The end of 2009 is when I started my YouTube channel in December. And then I made that my very first video. My story is not like most. A lot of people grind for years and years and years. And then finally it takes off. My first video I ever made went crazy viral, if you will. It blew up. I made it for my department's banquet. It blew up, and then I disappeared. And I made another video the next year, and then I disappeared. And I did that for 7 years. I just didn't really understand social media. And it wasn't until about 2018 when I was challenged by a larger creator that randomly reached out to me and said, hey man, I've been watching your stuff since that first video in 2011. And I think you should really pursue being consistent. And I started to be consistent, and it's kind of taken off, and that's where we're at now.
Very cool.
And just for all the people watching, the mustache is fake, right?
Yes, it's real fake. Yeah.
Obviously, Michaela.
Yeah.
Obvious.
Okay, you could have fooled me. So you could have fooled a lot of people.
He fooled me for the longest time. I guess my other question for you, Brent, is, so you're a comedy guy. That's kind of what you're known for. So why say yes to a mental health podcast?
Well, because I think, one, it's important, it's needed, but I think that comedy and laughter is a very, very powerful tool to get us all through life. And it's a tool that we all have. And it's something that I think breaks down barriers. Laughter, it breaks down barriers, shows vulnerability, and it brings people together. And to me, I feel like it just kind of goes hand in hand with mental health.
I would totally agree. And you make a great segue for Michaela.
Yeah.
I don't even have to secretly text her and go
That's
to part
right.
2.
Part 2, yeah. So we talk about humor a lot as this shield for first responders. When can you tell that shield of humor is not going to be enough, and we actually do need to get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of our mental health?
I feel like the laughter and things is a way to process it kind of in the moment. I mean, obviously when we go on, I'm speaking as a firefighter, but I know a lot of first responders and things like that, we see these people don't call us when they're having a good day most of the time, 99% of the time. So we see the worst of the worst, and we're kind of in it together, and you'll see the dark humor come out, and I'm guilty of getting back on the truck after a really crappy call and making a joke, and immediately in my head going, God forgive me for that one. But everybody laughs, And it's just a way to process it. But I feel like in the moments that we're actually providing the services, working through these scenes, all that kind of stuff, I feel like we have a switch that we have to turn off. It sounds weird to say, but you almost have to turn off your human side. You have to turn off your human being, where you feel those emotions, you empathize, you see the tragedy, and you can't process it in the moment. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to function efficiently. And people call us because we have a skill set to handle emergencies, to bring calm and order to chaos. Because if it goes bad for us, who do we call? We can't call 912.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no one else for us to call. We have to be on our A game all the time. And then when you get back, you gotta turn that human switch back on and process it. I feel like when we see there's just calls that there's things that hit different. I would say it's different for all of us, but for me, and I would say most people, anything involving kids, things like that stuff, you can just tell. It's hard to put into words how, but you can tell when something is different. I'm a captain, so I'm responsible for the other 3 guys in my truck, and part of that responsibility for me is investing in them personally as who they are outside of the job. So knowing the people that I work with, knowing who's got young kids, who's newly married, how old are their kids, all that kind of stuff, because you run calls and you can't help but internalize when you run a call. I have 4 kids. I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 6-year-old. If I run a call on any kid in any of those ages, it's going to hit closer to home for me. And I got to pay attention to the guys that I'm working with and make the jokes and things like that. But I always try to pull it aside and say, really, any bad call, just like have a conversation with people and not make it weird. Just like, yeah, I think we can all agree that sucked. That call was not, that wasn't good. You okay? And just check in on people, make sure people are okay. And if they're not okay, I can tell when somebody's, yeah. And I can circle back around with them in private, because I don't want to do that in front of everybody. And most times guys they don't want to show any kind of vulnerability or weakness in front of other people. So just kind of, I circle back with them and just be like, hey, all right, no BS. How are you? Do you need to go? I've sent guys home before and it's been great and they've appreciated it. They've thanked me later. And I just, it's just taking care of people, really. I don't know if I answered the question.
Knowing your
but,
people. No, you did. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you really made a good segue into my other question that was, we talk a lot about, I think in the firehouse they actually do have a name for it, like tailgate talks or like private talks between like your coworkers, like debrief. That's very important for firehouse culture. I feel like it's to support those people who are new in their career. Where do you feel like as a culture we might be failing them as new first responders?
I think for new first responders, I think sometimes the older generations, or, I fall into that 22 years in, I think that it can be easy to forget that we didn't always have these, we didn't always have it figured. It's like, for me, it's not to demean anybody, but it's almost like raising my kids. When my kids are dealing with something they've never dealt with we homeschool. There's a prime example. So we homeschool, and I'm teaching my kids, my wife and I are teaching kids things, that concepts to us that are second nature, so easy, like common sense. But there was a common sense, but it was all learned things. And it's easy to forget that there was a time that I didn't know this. So it's like when I'm thinking about my kids, I'm like, oh yeah, these basic addition things or whatever it is they're going through, this is the first time they've seen this, they've dealt with this, they've learned this stuff. So I can't get frustrated with them. Translate that into the fire service. It's easy to forget that, yeah, we all say, oh yeah, we've all been there. They always talk about that when we're preparing people to get hired for interview stuff. Oh, we've all been there. We all understand the nerves. We all understand this. We all understand that. It's easy to forget about, when we were brand new in our career and we just had never experienced death, tragedy, things like that. I think guys can just be like, that's where you'll get the suck it up. Just suck it up. Just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Crappy things happen. It's like, sure, crappy things do happen, but you do have to deal with it. You do have to process it. And I think where I've seen some failure is people will just say, well, this guy or this girl, they just don't have it. They're whatever. They're soft. They're weak. They're this, they're that. And it's, or
not
they just
cut out for it.
Yeah. Or they just don't know how to deal with it. And I would say there also is an element of some people are not cut out for it. And I would say that's not a cut
Bad
down
thing.
or a shot. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. Yeah, this jobs are not for everyone. There are certain things that are and certain things that aren't. And there's nothing wrong. I would rather somebody figure it out very early in their career. Like, maybe this isn't for me, than go years and years and years
I
trying
was going
things
to
to
say
help them
that
work through it.
exact same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. I would much
Yeah.
rather them figure it out on the early side.
Yeah.
I've worked as a nurse in the hospital for my entire career. I've never done anything else. I've done every job you can basically do in the hospital as a nurse. And I tell people the floor nursing is not for everyone. There's many different types of nurses. There are nurses that just sit behind a desk and do billing and coding. That might be for you.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Because
Exactly.
when you're training a new nurse and you put somebody in a body bag for the first time and their arm falls out the side and you just throw it in and zip it up and they're like, "Oh my God." You're like, "Why are you reacting like that?" You know? But
Yeah.
for you, it's like second nature.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's just remembering like the things that we do and see are not normal. It's
Right.
not normal. You know, the bulk of the public will never ever see a dead body outside of maybe a loved one in a casket or something like that. They'll never do that. They'll never see any kind of trauma. And I would venture to say that's kind of the way it should be. Ignorance
Yeah.
is bliss. But fortunately, as there are people in public safety, military, police, fire, EMS, all that step in between, nurses, doctors, dispatchers, that step in between into moments that are horrible. And we still have a job to do and we got to move things along. But yeah, I think that's where I have seen some failure is not taking the time to just, we train people how to fight fire, how to treat people EMS wise and all that kind of stuff, but we don't really train them on how to deal with
Right.
the ride back to the station. When you're laying in your bunk staring at the ceiling at night and you're replaying what's going on, or even I've seen it even later on in your career when guys are, I've dealt with that when let's say there is a death in your family. I felt like this when my grandmother died and I didn't cry. And everybody else in the family was broken up. It wasn't that I wasn't sad. I just was like, is something broken inside of me?
Yeah.
I think you start to almost, and it sounds weird to say or morbid, but when somebody dies of natural causes, you're like, oh, thank God. It's so,
Yeah.
I'm sad that they're gone, but I'm glad it was this way and not a million other ways that I've seen. And it's just, it becomes really, when you see it so much, it truly is, this is a part of life. It's the next chapter, if you will.
Yeah. You know, sometimes at work, I have to remember because once I put my uniform on and like I put my badge on, I'm in a completely different headspace. And I'm sure first responders, firefighters, cops can say the same thing. But like I have problems at work turning my human brain back on and turning the nurse brain off because like just a few weeks ago, I had this family member give me clothes after their granddad passed away and was like, "We want him to go to the morgue in these comfy, warm clothes." And I was like, "He's going to a freezer."
Yeah.
I was like, "He's gonna be frozen." He was like, and then I was like, "Oh," I was like, "You can't say that out loud." I was
Yeah.
like, "You gotta turn back on your human brain and be like, unfortunately, clothes can't go with him to the morgue."
Right.
But speaking of that, you're two separate people. You're firefighter Fenton, and then you're Brent, right? So how is that mask when you go home taken off? Like, what does that feel like?
Well, I think for me, the mask, I always talk about identity a lot, who we are as a person, all that kind of stuff. So for me, when I get off shift, I have probably, depends on what station. I can have up to 45-minute drive home or I can have a 20-minute drive home. But my normal station, I get about 30, 35 minutes. I drive slow and I just kind of debrief. I use that 35 minutes to kind of just, because I work 48-hour shifts that I've been gone for, and I sit in my an extra 10 or 15 minutes before I go inside. And my wife is like, and the kids will know that they'll hear motion on the Ring doorbell or whatever. They see the truck pulling and, oh, why is he taking so long? And it's just, I don't even know it. It's just, I kind of decompress and just really prepare myself. Cause I know that now I'm taking off the
Right.
captain hat because I'm not going to
And your
come in.
dad.
I'm dad. Yeah, I'm dad. I'm a husband and I'm dad. I always say I'm the CEO of fun in the Fenton household. But and that's not to say that I get it right. I for sure don't get it right every time. I still come home short. Even changing hats does nothing for the tiredness. You're just tired, but I don't get the excuse to come in, and because I'm tired, sometimes I'm short and I can't snap at my wife or snap at my kids and go, "Oh, sorry, I'm just tired." And it's like, yeah, you got to be able to still show up even though you're tired. But that's also like my wife and we have a great relationship. She always asks, "How's your night?" And usually I'm like, dumb. And if it's really bad, she'll ask you like, "Do you want to take a nap or whatever for an hour or two? Or are you good?" And sometimes I'm like, "Yeah, I think I do." And other times I'm just like, "I'll just keep moving. As long as I keep moving, I'm good to go." But so yeah, I think that I still sometimes, there's a lot of my kids, as my kids have gotten older, they've become way more interested in what dad actually does for work. What do I do? And they want to know, what causes you wrong? What causes this and that? So I give them a very filtered version of what I did. Took sick people to the hospital. Oh, we had a little fire. Oh, had a car accident, this and that, whatever. And they always say, were people hurt? Yeah, but we took them to the hospital, and I just leave it at that. There are some times where I kind of will probably give my wife more information than she needs, and I still catch myself, "Oh, I shouldn't have did that." And she'll let me know, like, "I don't want to hear that." Okay, sorry. But I definitely, like I said, the identity thing for me is when I get off shift, I turn off all the notifications for the different apps that we have for the dispatches and things like that. I try my best to just really unplug. I always think about like an outlet on the wall. You can only plug one plug in at a time. If I don't fully unplug work, I can't fully plug into my family. So I just,
Can we just shout out your wife for a minute too? Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah,
homeschooling 4 children,
yeah,
praise be to her. My God.
no joke. Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, and I work 48-hour shifts, and I'm just like, I don't know how you do this, because she's gone on, just this last year, she went on a cruise with her mom, her grandma, and her sister. And unfortunately, her grandma got really sick on the cruise, and they had to get off, and they got stuck for like 4 days. And so basically, it was supposed to be a 6-day cruise that ended up being 11 that they were gone total. And I was just like,
We need to bring her
my
on and have
goodness.
her talk about mental health.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
She'd probably be great. Yeah.
So,
So
but yeah, no, no joke.
I'm glad you mentioned this. You're providing such great segues. You must be a pro at this or something. It's almost like you do social media 5 times a week. But was that a learned experience coming in and learning how to separate like your living room and the firehouse? Or was that something you kind of were taught by a mentor, or something that you just inherently knew, like, I don't need to bring this crap home with me? Or like, how did that thought that you just expressed to us kind of transpire into being?
I think it was a combination of a lot of it. Some of it was like at the beginning of my career. Fortunately, I was on the job for quite a while before having children. So I would say, I had the trial and error phases already, if you will. But I think my dad really, really set me up for success. I go to him, like, he's my dad, but he's also like, he's my mentor. He's my number one that I look to for advice and wisdom. And he had a lot of wise words to say. Just don't let this job become your identity. And I got to experience, not only through his words, but I also got to see it firsthand. We see a lot of people get on the job, and it goes from being, I'm all these things and I just so happen to be a firefighter, to like, I'm a firefighter. This isn't a job. This is a calling. This is who I am. This is what I do. The job first and everything else second. And I just so happen to be all these other things. But for me, and like my dad was saying, we got to keep our priorities straight. Your family first. You're a husband. You're a father. You're all these things, and you just so happen to be a firefighter. And you don't let that take away the pride and the effort that you put into your job. Because I definitely take pride in being a firefighter, and I put forth a lot of effort. I want to be a master of my craft. I want to be very, very well when I'm at work. And that's also to not say that I also don't do additional things on the side to continue to make the department better, make things better for my identity, and for me, like, the biggest things that play into that is my faith in Jesus. I'm a Christian, and that's where my foundation comes from. And I just know in an ever-changing world and with everything being so unstable, he's the only constant that I have. And I know that my identity comes from him. So when my world is shaken, my foundation is still solid. Because and when our identities get out of whack and it becomes the job, when you have a career-ending injury or something like that where you can't do the job, when the rug is pulled out on the job, you're left with who am I? And that can be a very scary, very dark, unknown place. And that's where we see people tailspin a lot on that. But I think it was learned through when I first got on the job. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be involved in there and do all this stuff. And I for a long portion of my career, about 7 years of my career, I was the public information officer, which was a hard season of life. It was great.
What
It
is
was also
that? I don't
the
know what that is.
So basically, the public information officer, you're the face of the department to the media, to the world. Like anytime there's any significant incident going on, I got to do media interviews. I got to do on-camera interviews, phone interviews. I got to send a bunch of emails. I also have to prepare reports to report back to the fire chief and the senior staff of what was going on these calls, all that kind of stuff. And then you also kind of head up the public relations of all the public education, things like that. And it just really felt like never being off duty for 7 years straight, which took a huge toll because my wife was like, "You're married to me, not the job." I was like, "Yep." And again, we have a very honest relationship. And she was just like, "I think it's time to be done with that." And I fortunately had good leadership. And I went to the chief that I reported to and said, "Hey, I think it's it." And he was like, "I'll support you however you need. Let's find somebody else to take over. If you want to just dump it and I handle it, I'll do it." Hopefully you don't do that, but if you need that, we can do that. But yeah, so like I said, sorry, I know I'm kind of going down different trails and all that kind of stuff, but mentorship was really good from my dad. That's really helped me there. And then, yeah, just kind of learning it as I've gone on. And then, yeah, just experiencing it and seeing it firsthand of the wrong. You can learn just as much from the wrong way as you can from the right way, if not more. So just watching guys doing it, what I would say is the wrong way, and seeing how, I don't want that. I don't want that path for my life. So,
And I think so many times we as first responders get caught up in this kind of like you mentioned, this is my life. Like I am the firefighter. It becomes so much of you that you take on that identity. So for you, if all that was stripped away today, who's the man that's left? And I think I ask that as not just a question for you, but a question for all the people who may struggle with that identity crisis of I'm a firefighter and then it gets yanked out from under you. So say it gets yanked out from under you, who are you?
yeah. So like I said, so for me, if it gets yanked out um, from under me, it's just going to be time to pivot and go do something else because I still got to provide for my family. I'm still my wife's husband. I'm still my kid's dad. So I got to hold it together and continue on with family as business as usual. If Firefighter Fenton went away again, if the social media, all that stuff, everything was gone, I just have to go find another job and just continue on. But like I said, I talked about my foundation and my faith. I'm a Christian, and I know that if all this got stripped away, if I lost my house, if I lost my job, if I lost all these things, I'm still okay because I still have my health. I got my family. I say Jesus is still alive. He still saved me, and it's gonna be okay. And I'm gonna find the next. I'm gonna just find the next thing, and I can still keep pressing on. So yeah, for me, I'm still gonna be. I just won't be wearing a fake mustache anymore, but I'm still gonna make the same jokes. I'm still gonna be the same guy. I still have the same friends, the same family, and I'm just gonna go figure something else out.
Yeah. And a lot of times it is important to check in on our mental health when all those things seem great, and also when all those things seem like they're all falling apart. Um, for a lot of first responders, it's not one call that does it that breaks you. I know Kevin had a traumatic call. It can be small little things that slowly over time break you. So when for you can you tell that it's time to kind of step back and do like an evaluation of your mental health?
I think probably it's a blessing and a curse of something that I have is if you haven't already gathered it, I talk. I like to talk. So I talk a lot. So
Yeah.
I'm always talking. I'm always talking to people. I share things. Sometimes I'm an overshare. I can see the look on some of my friends who are not firefighters and I talk about calls and they're like, good Lord. And I was like, I think I just gave you secondhand trauma. Shoot, sorry about that. But I think for me, the kind of the I guess my trigger points or whatever things that I recognize that I need to just take a break is if I'm starting to be irritable. Because for me, I don't necessarily know that. I don't know. I haven't had. I mean, I've had. Don't get me wrong. We could sit here and talk about all the terrible. I've had bad calls. I've had bad experiences, things like that. I think I've just been fortunate enough by God's grace that I've been able to kind of process those and move through it. And I haven't had anything that has given me any kind of PTSD or anything like that. But I think kind of really over time is when I notice that I'm just really irritable, really tired, really just, I almost shut down, really. Like my productiveness, if you will, my creativity is just nothing. Like I'm always coming up with ideas, not because I have to. That's just like, that's my art, if you will. The way I express my creativity, I love to come up with jokes and make funny video ideas and things like that. And when I'm just in a valley, in a trench of like, I got writer's block or whatever, I can't think of anything going on. I wake up and the first thing I think about is, man, when can I go back to sleep? I'm exhausted. I'm short with the kids. I'm short with my wife. I don't want to do anything. Those are all signals for me of like, all right, something's going on. I need to unplug. I need to uncheck. Maybe I need to clear some mental bandwidth off of my plate and just kind of get a reset. Again, I like to talk. So my wife and we talk a lot. She will let me know. She will definitely let me know when she sees that too. And I'm so thankful that she does that. And I'm so grateful for her for doing that. But for me, yeah, those are kind of like my triggers of that. And then the ways that I do it really are, I will take a step back. My wife really supports me in making sure that whether it's like, hey, I like to hunt or just be outside in general, like, hey, why don't you go for a hike? Why don't you go scouting? Why don't you go do whatever? And that's huge because that really kind of re-energizes me and fills me back up so then I can pour back into my family because I can't pour out into all these other things and then come home and have an empty cup. I gotta.
Kevin, he didn't let, he answered it before I had the chance to ask. I was going to say,
Yep.
what do you do to fill up your own cup? I ask every
Yep.
guest that. You already answered it. I love that though. I love that. I grew up in a hunting family, so I definitely understand the hype.
Yeah.
So we live in the generation that's still leaving, that's about to retire. They were definitely the suck it up generation. And being trained, thank God, wasn't trained by one of those nurses. I was trained by a very good nurse. But for those people who, got raised by that suck it up mentality, what are we going to do to break that chain going on to the next cycle?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is I guess I should say I understand the sentiment of the suck it up because there's some I don't want to say I necessarily disagree 100% because we do have, and I think really what it is it's just a lazy way to handle weird or awkward or difficult situations. Instead of it's a lot easier to just say suck it up and then move on to the next thing versus like again I use all these examples because this is just what I do in my life. Raising kids. I can sit there and tell my kids are losing it on whatever. And I can say, knock it off. Stop doing that. And it's like, sure. They're like, oh, cool. What does that look like? Stop being upset. That's not something to cry about, whatever. And they're like, okay, well, I still feel all these frustration and emotions and anger and all this stuff. And this is the first time I've experienced it. I don't know any other way to deal with this other than to lash out and hit my sister, or hit my brother, or freak out. Right. And you got to just be like, all right, I understand where you're at, and just kind of come down and help really just walk them through it. And it honestly, like I said, suck it up. I don't necessarily disagree with the sentiment of like, you just got to do it. Sometimes you just got to get in there and do it and deal with it and deal with whatever the situation is. But you can't just leave it at suck it up. Be like, suck it up for right now. But we're going to revisit this and we're going to talk about this. I'm going to give you experience. And I think it requires what we're going to do to not fail the next generation is it requires us to do some inward reflection and look back at how we've dealt with similar situations or things like that. and be able to be willing to take the time to sit down and take that extra moment to, one, show that we actually care about these people, not to just like, it's just like, again, parenting. When I want my kids to be quiet or they're doing something, am I doing that just because I'm annoyed and I want them to stop annoying me? Or am I doing that because I'm trying to develop their character and teach them how to be normal functioning human beings later on in life? Or am I just parenting them
Right.
out of annoyance? I'm annoyed, stop that. Or like,
Yeah.
hey, it's kind of the same thing of like, you have somebody on your crew who's just having a hard time with something. You're just like, oh gosh, this guy, here we go, crying about something like that. I'm like, no, sit down and talk with them. All right, why? What is it that is bothering you? Is there something else that we're missing? Is there something that I can do? Like, do you just have no like? Are you questioning why all these bad things happen? Are you questioning why this happened? Are you questioning why that? And sometimes it's just as simple as just freaking talking to someone and letting them feel heard, letting them know that they're not crazy. They're not a lone man on an island thinking these things. Like, I'm the only one that feels this way. What's wrong with me? And letting them know, feeling validated. You're not crazy for feeling that way. And letting them just be heard of, feel this way. This sucks. And you can just go, yeah. And sometimes that's just like, that's all they need.
Because I do feel like I agree with you. There is a portion of the suck it up mentality that is coming from a good place, because there is like this emotionally aware side that you want to be, but also this mentally tough side. Because even though you've got kids at home that's 9, whatever, if you run a wreck and there's a kid hanging out of a car that's the same age as your kid, you can't break down in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take care of the situation. So, I mean, I think part of that comes out of a good place.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we literally, I just think of one of the most recent, it's been probably a year, but we had a call. It involved a 9-week-old baby, and it obviously, spare the details, but it didn't go well. Like nothing that us, it was just a bad call. Unfortunately, baby ended up passing away. And there was a guy on my crew that had a 9-week-old baby, and he performed very well on the call, considering he was actually, I was precepting him. He was actually the medic student. He performed very well. He did what he had to do. We got everything. We did our job as best we could. And again, I always tell medic students, people are going to die in spite of us. They should never die because of us. Things are going to happen in spite of us, not because of us. But I come out of the ER and he's literally sitting there and tears in his eyes. And I'm just like, oh, and I just grabbed him and walked him over around where nobody else was on the front of the engine and was like, you okay? And he's just like, I'm not okay. And I said, that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. I don't blame you. You have a daughter at home that is the exact same age as, or I'm sorry, a son at home that's the exact same age as this little girl was. Yeah. I tell you what, why don't you go home? And he's like, no. I could have just been like, suck it up, deal with it, whatever. And then what happens when we run another call and he's just still a wreck and his brain is a million other places. So I just said, hey man, I think you should go home. And I want you to, there's a couple things I want you to do for me. I want you to go home. I want you to give your wife a huge hug and a kiss, and your baby boy a huge hug and a kiss. And I want you to turn work off. Don't think any more about this. And the other thing I want you to do is I don't want you to have any alcohol or any drugs. I want you to go home, spend time with your family. We'll pick it back up next shift. No shame, nothing at all. I don't care. I want to make sure that you're okay. And he was like, okay. And he went back at first he was kind of like giving me pushback, but I'm like, look, man, you're a medic student. So you've already got that mental load going of working through all these things, making sure you're making the right treatment plans and all this kind of stuff. And then you got all this other garbage going on in your head. Like you're going to be useless. And I'm not saying it to cut you down. I'm just saying that's just a fact of the matter. You can't be fully engaged with this going on. So just go home. We'll be fine. What he's going to be looking at you. And I won't even, I'll lie to him and say that you got sick. I don't care. Nobody, this is between you and I. And he was like, I appreciate that. And he went home and then he texted me. I texted him next day. How you doing? He texted me back and was like, I really appreciate it. It was great. Had a great morning, whatever. And I was like, awesome. See you next shift. And it was great. And, so yeah, that's just an example of, those kind of moments where, like you said, it's just, you can't help but internalize it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really the basis for where a lot of these peer support teams come from. That's kind of the basis of where ours come from. And I think that that's a I think we get stuck on a few of these corporate wellness buzzwords, the employee assistance program that everybody kind of snickers at in the background, and all the other things. But I think there's more there when you're talking to somebody who truly gets it and has been through similar things that you have. I think that's one of the things that I found in my own journey, that the people who got it the most were people that had been there and been in some trenches with me in my practice. And I mean, that's your approach to that is just so amazing, for you to take a guy by the shoulders and say, "Hey, I want you to go home. I want you to chill out, do all the right things." I love that. Of course, one of the reasons that I found you was because by the time that I found you, you had blown up to megastar status in the social media world, and viral, or whatever little word you want to use. But I really want to ask you, kind of as we close down, I really want to ask you what you want your legacy to be, both as a professional firefighter, but also as Firefighter Fenton. Do you carry the responsibility to be the voice for maybe the fire service that doesn't have the social media outreach that you do?
Yeah, I think I want my legacy. Well, as Brent, the captain at my department, I want my legacy to be like, one that a guy who knew what he was doing, but a guy who also really cared about you. Because I truly do care about the people that I work with. I want the best for them. I want them to be. I mean, I want them to be successful in their professional life, but really, what's really important to me is I want them to be professional or successful in their personal life. That I really want that. I want what's best for them, for their families, and because I always say this job can and will give you the job has given me everything I've ever in this house that I'm in is all come from the paycheck that I made at this job, and all the stuff and all the opportunities that I've had has come from the job, and on social media and all that other kind of things. It is all presented stuff with opportunities, but it all means nothing if at the end of the day, when I retire and I'm divorced and kids hate me and all this kind of stuff, because then it's like, oh, I've got all this, I got this big pension, I got all this stuff, and I get to enjoy it by myself. And I don't want that for people. I don't want that. And I'm not saying that because I know that there are guys that find themselves in that situation, and I don't say that to like knock them or cut them down. I'm sad that sucks, and I know that they would agree that it, even in their position, it does suck to have that. But I just want people to be all around healthy, and just like I always say, it's better to go through life laughing than it is to go through life angry. Don't take life too serious. That saying, nobody gets out alive kind of thing.
Yeah.
But my legacy, I guess at my department, I would want is just, I want to, through my leadership of the guys that I'm leading on my crews and other crews that are around, and I've mentored and done all these different things, I want them to take the good that they've learned from me and continue to affect positivity and change through their career, and it just leaves the department better. And then with Fenton, for me, I think the legacy, like the thing that I take the most pride in is it's really my why. It started out, that why has kind of changed over the journey. Like initially, I just love to make people laugh. I've always loved that. I love to make funny videos. I make these videos. That's how I stay true to myself in these videos. Is I know not every single one is going to hit. There's going to be hits. There's going to be misses, but I think they're all funny. And I'm only making them because I think they're funny. If I don't think it's going to be funny, I'm not going to make it. And sometimes people will be like, oh, do you try and make content for people and not to like disrespect the audience, the platform? No, I don't make it for them. I make what I think is funny. I put it out there. And if they think it's funny, cool. There are some of my videos that have performed the worst are some of my favorite. It is what it is. Yeah. But I think initially I started out doing that. That was my why, I love to make people laugh. I love to do funny stuff. I wanted to put it out there, but then it kind of turned into something else when I started to see guys coming up to me, meeting them saying, man, your videos really got me through some really hard times, a really dark place. It reminded me that, there's I always say, there's a sunrise after the sunset. That's what I always say, life is peaks and valleys, and there's pain in the night and joy in the morning kind of thing. And sometimes those nights can get long. Sometimes those valleys can get deep, but everything is temporary. So for me, the why has kind of turned into like, I love to be able to create moments where you're just in it, getting your butt handed to you on your 5th call after midnight, going to the same frequent flyer that you've been on 5 shifts in a row or whatever. And somebody makes a reference to a video or sings a parody line and everybody starts laughing. That is kind of like, I feel so grateful that I can affect positivity and just change people's perspective in those moments, because it really is all about perspective. And like I said, I had a lady, two particular, here I am making short stories long, but 2 particular times where I was like, yes, this is it. I had a woman whose husband was diagnosed with cancer. He was a firefighter in the greater Chicago area, cancer. And she said some of her fondest memories of that whole, unfortunately he did pass, but some of her fondest memories throughout their whole journey with his treatment, it was them sitting in his hospital bed with their daughters, watching my videos and just laughing together. And then him being able to talk to them about, this one's funny because of this, because they didn't understand some of them, creating that moment. And I literally just 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago met a guy who came up and he kind of had tears welling up in his eyes. And he just said, I really appreciate your videos. It really helped me through some dark times. He said he lost his daughter to cancer in December. And this was not an old guy. This was a young guy. So I know that was a young child. I'm just like, I mean, I just gave him a hug. I didn't know. What do you say to that? And I was like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, yep, we got to keep pressing on. And I just gave him a hug. What do you say to that? I'm just like, it is amazing that you have that outlook. And I'm fortunate that I could play a small part in helping you cope.
Yeah, absolutely. So I
Your
guess
videos are all funny, by the way.
they are
I mean,
all
you're like,
hilarious.
I was like,
I
they're all
love
funny.
all of
And
them.
the public makes it easy, I'm sure, to give you more
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
Never fails to find something. But if you are talking to the firefighters who are faking the fine but they know they're not, internally they know they're not, what's your message to those guys and girls?
Man, I would say I've been there. Everybody's been there at some level throughout my entire career, throughout this whole social media journey. Literally, I've been able to meet firefighters from all around the world, literally. And one thing that I've learned is that this job attracts the exact same players, the exact same people. I can walk into any fire station anywhere and say, that guy's this guy, that guy's me, this is this person, this is that person, whatever. And so I say that to say, for the person who's faking the funk, if you will, and acting like, oh, I'm all good, but they're really not. Just like this job attracts the same people, it also affects us all. What affects me might not affect you. What affects you might not affect me. But I say that nobody's struggle is unique. And I'm not saying that to minimize anybody's struggle. I'm saying you're not alone. Just like this job attracts the same people, there is 100% somebody else struggling with the exact same thing that you're dealing with. And you don't have to struggle in silence. You don't have to struggle alone. Talking about it, talking to people is so powerful. Keeping stuff in the dark doesn't grow life. Bad things grow in the dark. Bringing it to the light kills the bad stuff and it grows life. So having the courage to talk in front of your peers, to your friends, to someone, whether it's a therapist, there's peer support teams, there's so many resources out there available for help, but it doesn't have to be that official. It can just simply be talking, having the courage to stand up and say, hey, I'm not okay. And before somebody else is going to be encouraged by you saying that and go, neither am I. And then you're surrounded by a community and you don't have to struggle alone in silence. You can walk through it together and truly start getting on the path of healing, because inside of our heads is a dangerous place, especially when we're by ourselves.
You're exactly right. And then my favorite part of the show, as we always wrap up, is always the part that's the shameless plug. I want to hear all the places we can find Firefighter Fenton and what you're doing next.
Yeah. So all the places you can find Firefighter Fenton, just all the social medias, you just type in Firefighter Fenton. It's the same, The only one it's different on is X. It's Firefighter Fent, just because I'm cheap and I'm not going to pay to make my name 2 letters longer. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the. I'm just and I also, you can find a lot of content on Fire Department Coffee's social media as well. We make a lot of videos on there. We have a lot of fun. You'll see a lot of the collaborations there with other creators and things like that. So we have a lot of fun. You can find our coffee in Walmart, a lot of grocery stores as well across the country and in Canada. But no, so for me, Firefighter Fenton, you can find me on those channels, and I'm just continuing to make people laugh. I've got just under 8 years left in my career as a firefighter, and I have what I'm doing next. I kind of got a little side project. I haven't really even released anything on it, but I have Fenton Outdoors, and that's
cool.
That's where I'm gonna start making some outdoor comedy, because there's not a ton of comedy in the outdoor hunting space, and I'm by no means a pro. And if there's one thing I've learned about the hunting space is everybody loves to be out and about, but everybody also has an opinion. And if you show any signs of not knowing what you're doing, you're going to get blown up online, which is hilarious to me, because we're all just trying to figure it out. And I'm gonna adventure into that space. And when my firefighter career is over, I'm gonna try and pivot and just continue to make people laugh, doing the things that I love. And
there's a TikTok account out there where these 4 guys sit in the duck blind or stand. They have numerous different ones, and they try to tell each other jokes and whispering and trying to stay quiet, not to laugh. And it's usually these corny dad jokes, but man, they are so funny. So I think you got a career in that. That's I think you really
you
got
should be
that
in a
one.
movie.
Oh man, I would love it. It'd be so fun.
Yeah.
We were just talking. Our last episode we did was the writer of Code 3.
Yeah.
And you should reach out and be in Code 2.
Oh yeah.
Or Code 4.
Code 4. Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be the non-emergent nursing home transfers. Code 4 is that's what that one's going to be.
The lift assist, the wellness check.
Yeah. Well, Brent, thank you for joining us. It really does mean a lot when we have guests to say yes to what we're trying to do here and come on and have an honest conversation. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I keep trying to get in touch with Jason, but he's a hard person to get in touch with. I met him at the EMS conference last year, and he was awesome. He's just a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's incredibly busy. Yeah,
we can cut this out, but who is Jason? I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Jason is?
He's Fire Department Chronicles. That's his page.
I don't have a TikTok.
You probably see him. He's a bald guy. He does a lot of videos of real things I've seen as a paramedic.
Oh, okay. So, I'll have to look him up.
Yeah. I'm currently embarrassed to have you on my show right now. Not you, Brent. I'm talking to my co-host that doesn't know who that is.
I'm not a really social media kind of person.
Yeah. Like
I have Facebook, but that's it. But I've seen your stuff on Facebook.
If you don't know Firefighter Fenton and
Salty Paramedic,
Fire Department Chronicles, like there's those big accounts like you guys that if you're in this service, you follow those accounts. And if you don't, you get your first responder card pulled from you immediately.
But I'm a nurse, so I get a lot of the stuff like the Scrub Hacks girl. I can't remember what her name is. And Dr. Grunch, I get a bunch of them. Not a lot of like firefighter, but I understand the comedy. It's hilarious.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we say always, and to tell you guys a little bit about what's going on with us, obviously we've moved locations. I know I said that in the start of the show, but we've moved locations of where I currently film. A lot of that is work related because I was using my office and that became not manageable anymore. So having somewhere else to film is going to be fun and something new. So we're excited about that. And of course, our website is still out there, asilentwarwithin.com. You can go visit that. You can go find us on all the social media platforms except for Twitter or X. Sorry, Twitter. We haven't gotten into that space, but Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, of course, and then we stream on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we put our episodes on YouTube. We're so excited to be here. The journey is really just beginning. I know this is like episode 52 or 53, and I say this often, but we see no end in sight. There was sometimes I get in my emotions and we'll text them, I'm done. And they're like, no, you're not. And that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, shut up. I have the women in my life to beat me up. Yeah. So Michaela and Angel, our social media creator and producer or whatever you want to call her, is awesome with all of our stuff, social media, and we're happy to have her on our team. She is literally a godsend for me. So as we say every week, we'll let Michaela say it because she's got her Delilah voice, and I've got my $1.99 waiting to pay you. Go ahead, Michaela.
Be safe. Take care of your mind, and we will talk soon.
See, there went my credit card being charged one more time. All right. See you guys later.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right.
You've been listening to A Silent War Within. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you're not alone and your well-being matters. It's time to end this silent war.